So the third thing we're going to talk about with coordinate geometry that we can do with line segments and lines. The first two, I mean, you can only find the distance or the length of a line segment. You can't find the length of a line because it goes on forever. Okay? Just like you can't find the midpoint of a line, but you could find the midpoint of a line segment. But slope you can do with either. So I seem to remember you guys saying that you guys did this in science. So could somebody tell me what slope means? As you all look at each other. No? You want to take a shot? But one of the definitions of a line or line segment is how steep it is. That's one way we could define it. It's a number that we assign to a line to show how steep it is. But it also represents something else that has a lot of application. Also represents a rate of change. So how do we find the slope of a line? Well, it's calculated by dividing the vertical change which often we call rise in the line or line segment, by its horizontal change. Which we often call run. So we look at slope as rise over run. How much does a line rise compared to how much does it run? And the direction that it rises or runs is also important because some slopes can be negative and some slopes can be positive. Some slopes can be zero and some slopes don't exist. So let's look at 4 different line segments. We've got one that's slanted and it goes up and to the right. We've got one that's slanted that goes down and to the right. We've got a horizontal one. We've got a vertical one. So let's look at AB. And usually to find the slope, we want to find the vertical change divided by the horizontal change. So from A to B, what's the vertical change to get from A to B? How much do I have to go up or down? 5, that takes me up here. 4. So I can rise 4. But I'm still not there yet because I have to run or move horizontally. How much do I move horizontally? 2. And because I went up 4, that's positive. Because I went to the right 2, that's positive. So we would say the slope is rise over run, 4 over 2, which is plain old 2. We would get the same answer if I went from here to here, from B to A, because it has to be the same slope. Think of it this way. How much would I rise if I'm moving from B to A? How much would I move vertically? How much is this? 4, but it's down, isn't it? So it's -4.
How much do I move horizontally? 2, but because it's to the left, it's -2. So the rise is -4 divided -2, which is also 2. It'll never be different. So you decide which one you want to start at and which one you want to move to. You're still going to get the same answer. How about C to D? Slope from C to D. Well, how much do I rise? Tell me how much? Tell me whether it's positive or negative. 3 negative. Because I'm moving down. I'm here. How much do I move to finally get to D? And is it positive or negative? Positive 4. So its slope would be -3 over +4. Rise over rise. What about E to F? How much do I rise to get from E to F? 0. I don't move at all, do I? Okay. And how much do I run? 4 positive? Yeah, it's positive because I'm moving to the right. So it's 0 rise over a run of 4. Which means 0 over 4 is just plain old. What's 0 divided by 4? 0. Any horizontal line or line segment always has a slope of 0. It's just not slanted at all. And finally, I need to pick a new color here. Pick one. Let me pick a new color. So we'll try it this way. Yeah. This one. GH. How much do I rise to get from G to H or move vertically? And is it positive or negative? Start here, down here. -3. Well, that's a little hard to see. That's just a little. How much do I move horizontally? 0. I don't move at all. Yeah, that's kind of hard to see. I think I need another. What should I use? Okay. That better? That's a little better. So it's slow. Would be -3 divided 0, which is what? 0 divide any number is 0. But what about dividing by 0? It's right beside a seal. Undefined. You cannot divide by 0. Friends, do not let friends divide by 0. So any vertical
line or line segment?
As an undefined slope.
So a couple things to keep in mind. If it's horizontal, 0. If it's vertical, undefined. Okay. All right. It's pretty straightforward. So let's look at these two.
What would the slope of each one be?
This is where we use rise over run. And it doesn't matter. You can start here, figure out how much you have to rise and run to get to here. Or you can start here, figure out how much you have to rise and run to get here. You're going to get the same answer. You have to. Because you can't have two different slopes with the same line segment. That's just crazy. See if you could do those two. Every time we do this, we get a fraction that we leave as a fraction unless we can change it to a whole number, or we can reduce it. So if it stays as a fraction, make sure it's reduced. Anybody want to share the first one?
Rise
Okay.
and run.
Okay, so you went from C to D. So if I'm going down, would it be 10? It would be -10. And then I'm going to the right 5, so -10 over 5. Got the right numbers. Which simplifies straight to -2. Okay. If you went the other way, if you went from D to C, you would have got +10 over -5. Still -2. How about this one? How much do we rise? 6 over how much we run? 10. Can't divide that cleanly, but I can reduce it to 3 over 5. Okay. Just like we did. Oh, no, sorry, we're not done here. We can do this one with rise over run. So now you got to go the opposite way. You're given the slope. You've got to draw a line segment on this grid that has that slope. How would you go about doing that? How would you draw a line segment that has a slope of 7 over 5? What would you do first here? Don't I need a point? So pick a point. Do I want to pick a point up here? No, because I have to rise 7, don't I? So I'm going off the grid. So I'm going to pick a point down here somewhere. So I'll pick, I don't know, here. Now to get a slope of 7 over 5, what should I do from here? Go up 7, and then go across 5. Both are positive, so I go up and to the right. And there's my segment. For B, we've got a negative. Notice the negative is in the middle. Remember, and we talked about this last year, for a negative fraction, we could have the negative up top. That means the same thing. Or
we could put the negative on the bottom. That means the same thing.
But don't put two negatives. Because if you put two negatives, that changes it to positive. And it's not positive.
So let's look at this one. So I need to pick a point that I can do what? How do I move from that point that I pick? I go down 3 to the right 8. So probably over here somewhere. Down 3 to the right 8. I'm over here. Let's make sure I did that right. Down 3. Yeah, to the right 8. And that's B.
So on a graph, just like when we did with distance, if you were given a line segment on a graph, you could just make a right triangle and do Pythagoras to figure out the length of the line. But then what if we're not given a graph? What if we're just given points? Then we want a formula. And there is obviously
A formula for slope. Well, the formula for slope,
is, remember, it's rise, correct? Rise is what? Vertical? Is that vertical? And what axis is that? X-axis or Y-axis? Y.
so are we finding the difference in the y's? So if I'm given 2 points,
Take the second Y coordinate minus the first one. That gives me the difference in the Y's.
and what do I divide that by? The difference in the x's for the run.
And that is the formula for slope.
The change, and actually it doesn't matter, it could be y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2.
It'll still give you the same answer.
Anybody know what letter we use to represent slope? Is that what you use in science?
Well, chemistry is a part of science. So what? Are you trying to say we're in camp? We can't answer this. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Okay, well, that's what I was asking.
Yes.
Anybody? S? Is that what you used in science? Am I in the same room with you guys? Am I in the same room?
Or am I in a different room and I'm just imagining it all?
But they're all looking at me like I'm just nuts or something. Or like I'm a pet owner and you're a bunch of dogs. You're like,
The M.
nice. Well done. Yes, it's M, which is weird. Because how does M stand for slope? Well, it does, kind of. Well, it does. Anybody know the French word for to climb? Really? No, anybody taking French in here? Nice, thank you.
That's what they figure it's from, Mote.
Mountain.
What? Yes, that's.
Okay. Now that we've figured out that formula, let's just do a couple questions to finish this up. Okay.
Sorry.
So we're given 2 points. So again, you could take the long way. You could draw a coordinate grid, you could plot the 2 points, and go rise over run and get your answer. But that takes way too long. Let's use the slope one. Remember, it's second y coordinate minus the first y over the second x coordinate minus the first x coordinate. And these points, well, the first point that I see, I'm going to call x1, y1. And the second point that I read, I'm going to call x2, y2. So if I do y2 minus y1, what do I get? What's y2? Minus, so it's 1 minus -3. Be careful with that one because it changes the plus. Over what? 2 minus -5, or just simply 2 plus 5. So this is the same as 4/7.
And finally, we got a little bit of a word problem here, sort of. We're given 2 points, except we don't know the y coordinate of the second point. But we do know that their slope is 2/3. So this is where we use algebra.
So remember, the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Well, what is the slope in this question? What is the slope? So I can replace m with 2/3. And if I call this one x1, y1, and this 2, x2, y2, well, what's y2? Y minus 4 over 6 minus 0. So somehow I have to figure out how to solve this. Well, what's an easier way to say 6 minus 0? It's just 6. Well, we have an equation. And it's a certain type of an equation because I see fractions in it. Don't I want to get rid of the fractions?
How do I get rid of the fractions? Multiply by the lowest common denominator.
What would I multiply both sides by? The lowest common denominator of 3 and 6 is 6. So the 6 cancel each other out here. I'm left with y minus 4. What does this side work out to? I've got 6 times 2/3. 4.
So what's y? How do I get y by itself?
Plus one more time.
Add 4 to both sides. So therefore y is equal to 8.
We okay with the 6 times 2 divide 3? We okay? We don't seem okay.
So do I think that these two?
No clue what you just said to me.
So I like this 2 times 2.
Yes, correct. Well done. So you do know.
Okay.